Okay, some just simple graphing for calculus. I'm just looking through a lot of sample questions that I've seen, and here's a couple of the graphs that I've seen that have come up. Look, these are not the free response things so much. These are just kind of simple questions that you might be able to answer on multiple choice, but without a calculator. So look at this thing for a second. What is this going to look like? Well, we have x to the fourth here, right? And this is a positive, right? So we know, sorry, this is a positive sign. So we know this thing is going to have kind of this general shape, isn't it? So now all we have to do is figure out here. What we want to figure out here is where are the zeros? So where is this thing equal to 0? So I'm going to go ahead and factor this out. I'm going to factor out x cubed times x minus 1 equals 0. So x is equal to 0 and x is equal to 1, right? So we have a 0 here and a 0 here at 1. This is the point 1, 0 here, right? Right? So just taking the general shape, we know that this thing's going to take this kind of general shape, kind of like this. And that's not my very best graph. It should have more of kind of a hump in it. And actually it probably comes and lays down kind of probably lays down here a little bit more. But it doesn't matter very much. It doesn't matter very well. I know this looks very parabolic, but that's okay because they're asking you for a simple graph. But we know because the exponent is even and the a value is positive, it's going to have this kind of behavior there, isn't it? So that's the one I want to look at, and I'm just taking a look at this thing. It does look more like this. All right, that's cool. Yeah, looks more like this. Kind of does this a little bit, right? Kind of comes down like this and lays in like that, going through 0, right? Kind of jogs down for a second and then pops back up like that. And so there's your graph, but the one that we just had was good enough, frankly. Okay, let me just go through one other one really quickly because all these points on the AP calculus exam, you have to kind of gather all the points. So let's try to make sure we can get all of them. So here's the next one. So sketch by hand. So sketch. And when you're done, see if you got what you expected. The other one I wanted to graph was this. F of x is equal to x cubed minus 3. Well, look, we have the a value, this value in front of the lead coefficient here is 1. This is positive 1. And we have a third degree polynomial here, right? So this thing is going to take on a shape that's similar to this. And this should not have been 3, it should have been x here, right? So all I'm going to do is just factor this thing out. So I'm going to start to factor this really quickly. So here's this and this. I'm going to factor this thing out, and there's my general shape. This thing is going to factor this, and it's going to factor to x times x squared minus 1. And on that AP Calc exam, they're really looking for your good algebra here. So set this thing equal to 0, and where are our zeros? Well, x equals 0, and here, right, because this piece right here breaks to x minus 1, x plus 1, doesn't it? So we have zeros at x equals 1 for the one on top, and then x equals negative 1. So our graph's going to look something like this, isn't it? 0 and 1. So this is the point 1, 0. Obviously this is 0, 0, and this is negative 1, 0, isn't it? So our graph is going to, now of course, because we're graphing this by hand, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it's going to take on this basic shape right here, isn't it? It's going to take on the shape we described earlier. It's going to come up like this, right? It's going to come here. This is intermediate. This is you proving intermediate value theorem here, isn't it? Because we know if this is a 0 here and this is a 0 here, if it has a heights greater than 0 here, by the time it gets here, it has to be back to 0, and then down and back up. So that's my sketch of that function. Okay, that's all I wanted to show you. I hope I kept this really quick, but I want you to remember that there are lots of places to get points on that exam, and we need to get all of them.